In 1901, sponge divers discovered a corroded lump of metal at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. When it finally cracked open, scientists found something inside that shouldn't exist. Gears. Dozens of precision-cut bronze gears fitted together in a machine so advanced it would take humanity another 1,000 years to build anything remotely similar. The ancient Greeks weren't supposed to have this technology, but they did, and we still don't fully understand how. This is the Antikythera Mechanism, and it's about to change everything you think you know about the ancient world. Picture this: April 1900. A small crew of Greek sponge divers is battling a violent storm near the tiny island of Antikythera, caught between Crete and mainland Greece. Captain Dimitrios Kondos makes a decision that will change history. He orders his crew to drop anchor and wait out the weather. When the storm passes, one of the divers, Elias Stadiatis, goes down to check if the anchor is secure. He descends about 150 feet into the crystal blue waters, and what he sees down there makes him surface so fast he nearly gets the bends. He's babbling about dead bodies, dozens of them, lying on the seafloor. The crew thinks he's lost his mind, maybe nitrogen narcosis from diving too deep, but Kondos goes down himself to investigate, and he realizes immediately what they've found. Not bodies, but statues. Bronze and marble figures scattered across an ancient shipwreck. This isn't just any shipwreck. This is a Roman cargo vessel that sank sometime around 60 BC, loaded with treasures bound for Rome: bronze sculptures, marble statues, luxury goods, wine amphorae. The divers, with support from the Greek government, spend the next 9 months recovering the cargo. Among the statues and treasures, they pull up something that doesn't make sense. A corroded, unimpressive lump of bronze and rotted wood, barely recognizable as anything but debris. It gets cataloged, tagged, and essentially forgotten in a storage room at the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. Then, on the 17th of May 1902, something extraordinary happens. The lump of corroded bronze suddenly splits open as it's drying out, and inside, museum staff see something that shouldn't exist: gears. Dozens of precisely cut bronze gears, fitted together in a mechanism of stunning complexity. Imagine being that museum curator. You're looking at an object from ancient Greece, a civilization we thought used simple tools, basic astronomy, and philosophical reasoning. And here, in your hands, is a gear-driven machine so intricate it looks like it belongs in a Swiss watchmaker's workshop from the 18th century, not from the age of togas and olive wreaths. The initial reaction from the academic world? Skepticism, outright disbelief. Some scholars suggested it must be a modern instrument that somehow got mixed up with the ancient cargo. Others thought it might be from a much later period, perhaps medieval. The idea that ancient Greeks could create precision-engineered gearwork seemed impossible, but the archaeological context was undeniable. The mechanism was encrusted with the same marine growth as the other artifacts. It came from the same shipwreck. The bronze composition matched other objects from the period. This was genuinely ancient. For decades, the Antikythera Mechanism remained one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Various researchers examined it, proposed theories, even attempted reconstructions. But the corrosion was so severe, the fragments so fragile, that understanding its true purpose seemed almost hopeless. Then came modern technology. In the early 2000s, an international team of researchers brought cutting-edge imaging technology to Athens. They used a technique called X-ray computed tomography, essentially a medical CT scanner, but calibrated for ancient bronze. This allowed them to see inside the corroded layers, without touching or damaging the mechanism. What they discovered left them stunned. The mechanism contained at least 30 bronze gears, possibly more, that had been lost to corrosion and time. These weren't crude, hand-carved gears. They were precisely manufactured, with teeth cut at specific angles, gear ratios calculated with mathematical precision. The level of miniaturization rivals what we achieved in clockmaking only in the 14th century. But here's where it gets truly mind-blowing. This wasn't just any machine. The Antikythera Mechanism was an astronomical calculator of breathtaking sophistication. The front face featured two main dials. The outer dial showed the Greek zodiac, the 12 constellations the sun passes through during the year. The inner dial displayed the Egyptian calendar with its 365 days. Users could input a date by turning a crank on the side, and the mechanism would calculate and display the positions of the sun, moon, and possibly all 5 planets known to ancient Greeks: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The back of the device was even more complex. It contained at least 4 dials that tracked various astronomical cycles. One dial predicted solar and lunar eclipses, not just their timing, but their characteristics, whether they'd be partial or total, visible from which locations. Another tracked the Metonic cycle, a 19-year pattern that reconciles lunar months with solar years, crucial for ancient calendars. The researchers even found inscriptions, thousands of tiny Greek letters etched into the bronze. Essentially, an instruction manual built into the device itself. These texts revealed that the mechanism was used for predicting celestial events, tracking the positions of heavenly bodies, and possibly calculating the timing of the ancient Olympic Games, which followed astronomical cycles. And here's perhaps the most astonishing detail. Recent research from the University of Glasgow has provided new insights into one of the mechanism's most sophisticated features: its lunar calendar function. By analyzing the surviving fragments, researchers estimated that one of the rings contained 354 or 355 holes. This number is crucial because it represents the days in a lunar year. The mechanism could track not just where the moon was in the sky, but account for the irregularities in the moon's orbit, something that requires understanding concepts we thought weren't discovered until Kepler in the 17th century. The ancient Greeks knew the moon didn't move at a constant speed. They knew its orbit was elliptical, that it moved faster at certain points and slower at others. And they built that variable motion into this machine using an ingenious pin and slot mechanism that adjusted the gear ratios dynamically. This is engineering genius on a level that makes modern engineers shake their heads in disbelief. So who built this marvel? Why was it built? And perhaps most puzzling of all, where are all the others? Various theories have emerged over the decades. Some researchers believe it was created by followers of the philosopher Posidonius on the island of Rhodes, a center of astronomical study in the ancient world. The Roman statesman Cicero wrote about a device created by Archimedes that could model the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. Could this be a similar machine? Or even a copy of Archimedes' original work? Others suggest it might have been used for astrological purposes. Ancient Greeks were deeply interested in astrology and horoscopes. The ability to calculate planetary positions precisely would have been invaluable for casting accurate horoscopes for wealthy patrons. Imagine being an ancient astrologer. With this device, you'd be the most sought-after fortune teller in the Mediterranean. There's also a philosophical angle. Ancient Greek philosophy was deeply intertwined with understanding the cosmos. The mechanism could have been a teaching tool, demonstrating the mathematical harmony of the heavens, showing students how the universe operated according to divine geometry and numerical relationships. But here's the haunting question that keeps archaeologists and historians awake at night. Why is this the only one we've found? If ancient Greeks could build something this sophisticated, they must have built others. This level of engineering doesn't appear out of nowhere. It requires generations of development, refinement, trial and error. There must have been earlier prototypes, simpler versions, perhaps even more advanced models. So where are they? Were they melted down for their bronze during times of war or economic hardship? Were they rare and expensive? Owned only by the wealthy elite whose possessions were lost to history? Or is the Antikythera mechanism itself a unique survivor, preserved by sheer chance in the oxygen-poor environment of a deep shipwreck, while all others corroded to nothing? The silence from the historical record is deafening. Ancient texts mention astronomical instruments, but nothing that clearly describes the complexity of what we've found. It's as if this technology existed in a kind of shadow known to a select few, never widely documented, ultimately lost when the Roman Empire shifted focus away from such scientific pursuits. The Antikythera mechanism forces us to completely reconsider what we thought we knew about ancient technology. For centuries, we viewed history as a steady march of progress. Primitive ancients, gradually developing more sophisticated tools until we reached our modern pinnacle of achievement. But this device shatters that narrative. It shows us that ancient civilizations were capable of technological achievements we've consistently underestimated. It reveals that there were peaks of innovation in the ancient world that were subsequently lost, forgotten, not rediscovered for over a millennium. Think about what had to exist for this mechanism to be built. Someone had to mine and refine the bronze. Someone had to develop the SAD, mathematical understanding of planetary motion. Someone had to invent precision gear-cutting techniques. Someone had to design the mechanism, calculate the gear ratios, inscribe the instructions. An entire ecosystem of knowledge, craftsmanship, and scientific understanding had to exist. And then, it vanished. Today, perfect reconstructions of the Antikythera mechanism sit in museums around the world, their gears turning smoothly, their dials tracking the moon and sun just as they did 2,000 years ago. Scientists continue to study the original fragments with ever more sophisticated imaging techniques, revealing new details, new inscriptions, new functions we hadn't noticed before. Each discovery raises new questions. Recent studies suggest there may have been a mechanical representation of the cosmos on the front face, a miniature orrery showing the planets orbiting the sun. If true, this would mean the ancient Greeks were flirting with heliocentric models of the solar system 1,800 years before Copernicus. The Antikythera mechanism stands as a humbling reminder. Our ancestors were not primitive. They were humans, just like us, capable of genius, innovation, and technological achievement that can still astonish us across the gulf of millennia. Somewhere in the ancient world, someone looked at the night sky and thought, I can build a machine that captures all of this. And they did. What other marvels are still lying at the bottom of the sea, buried in desert sands, or corroded beyond recognition in museum storage rooms, waiting to rewrite everything we think we know about the ancient world? The Antikythera mechanism isn't just an artifact. It's a challenge, a question, a reminder that history is full of surprises, and we've probably only scratched the surface of what our ancestors were truly capable of achieving.